Hi everyone, my name is Alison Miller and I'm the Division Director of Behavioral Health Education for the West Florida Division, and I'm the one that's overseeing and pushing out the information on the board certification study group for you. So I wanted to first introduce myself, but I also wanted to use this time to teach you a concept that shows up on the exam frequently. It did on my exam. I had at least 2 questions on it. I think there may have been 3. And it's covered in the book. The concept is covered in the book, but not very, shall we say, with any real meat to it. So you get the definition, but you don't really get an opportunity to understand how it plays out. So what I want to do is give you the opportunity to understand how it would actually go into effect if you were utilizing these concepts. Concept I'm talking about is primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention. It sounds sort of academic, but there's a real good model that they've used to create these ideas, and it's the disaster management model. So let's just for a second use the disaster management model to talk about how these 3 are differentiated. Okay, so the primary prevention is going to be education that's aimed to people who are susceptible. Let's just say because we're in Florida, to hurricanes. Okay, so we're going to be putting together education in the middle of spring about how to prepare for or how to manage a hurricane if it comes into your area that you live in. And it's going to be aimed at people who are susceptible to hurricanes. Well, in Florida, it's everybody, right? It doesn't matter what coast you're on. It doesn't matter whether you're in the middle of the state, because those things can be so big that they can roar into Orlando and tear things up. So our susceptible population is the entire state. We're going to aim an education program at everybody about hurricane, hurricane management, right? Preparation. So this is before anything has happened. No hurricane is on the horizon. We're giving everybody information while everybody is calm and there's no real threat. So the kind of information we would provide are things like, be aware that this particular sign is the sign you'd be looking for that says evacuation route. Pay attention to that. If we start talking about a hurricane coming close to Florida, you should have the following things on hand. Here are the things that you should be thinking about in terms of a family emergency plan, right? So that's all very basic introductory prevention. That's primary prevention. Nothing's happened yet, but we're getting the susceptible people prepped and educated. Secondary prevention is for those who are now about to deal with it or are dealing with it. So we're talking about a hurricane that's aiming straight at Florida, and we want to get everybody prepared at a higher level for what to do. So now we're talking about, if you are told to evacuate, you must evacuate, and here's where you would go. Here are the things that you can do with your pets if you have to evacuate. Here are the medicines you should be thinking about getting refilled right now, because we're about to hit. You should have money on hand. Make sure you have plenty of water. Those kinds of things are all secondary prevention, because we were in the middle of the crisis happening, right? It's coming towards us. It's about to hit our shores, and we want to be as fully prepared as possible. Get gas in your car and things like that. Tertiary prevention is minimizing the impact once the event has happened. So a hurricane has come on shore and it's hit a lot of houses. Well, then the education that we would be providing in tertiary prevention is going to be information about FEMA, where to go, how to find, how to fill out the forms, how to reconnect with family, all of those kinds of things. How to sterilize your water if you don't have safe water yet. So that's primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention. Now, when we're talking about how to apply it to psychiatric nursing, let's just take the example of depression. Okay, so in primary prevention, we would put flyers out. Maybe the National Institutes of Mental Health are going to put out flyers for people about the warning signs that depression may be something that somebody is struggling with. Signs and symptoms. These are distributed in places, not to everybody in the United States, but at doctor's offices, or maybe at mental health clinics, or maybe in hospitals, where, again, we're talking about susceptible populations. Not everybody on the planet, but the people who may be most likely to have these problems, maybe at homeless shelters and things like that. So we have general information that gets people thinking about depression and when to seek help. We don't want to try to get that information into their hands when they're already in crisis. We want to get that in their hands ahead of time so that if they start to have problems with symptoms of depression, then they know what to do and where to go to take the next step. Secondary prevention is going to be the second step. They're going to be actually seeking care. They're going to be going to a doctor saying, you know, I read this article about the signs and symptoms of depression, and I seem to have a lot of them. You know, I'm looking to see whether or not you can diagnose me. Maybe people are coming in and asking for medication at that point. So our education is that people are now in the process of having symptoms, maybe even a diagnosis, and we want to educate them about all the things that go along with it. What to do if they start to feel suicidal, what kind of side effects they might experience from the medications, what the length of time that they need to be on those medications should expect to be. Those kinds of things are secondary prevention. They're in the throes of the early stages, early diagnosis. Maybe we do some screening. The patient is saying that they're sleepless, they're restless, they feel they've disengaged from social activities. Well, now we want to do a screening for suicidality, right? So that's when that takes place, is in secondary prevention. Tertiary prevention is after the patient has already been diagnosed, is on medication, and they are trying to adapt to their new reality. In the case of depression, we want to teach people that as they start to feel better, they should get back to exercising, because exercise is one of the things that really synergizes medication and can make them feel better faster. We want to talk to them about sleep hygiene, because that can sometimes be affected by the medication. So now we're in the post-diagnosis phase, and we want to make sure that they remain as stable and as healthy as possible with this new diagnosis. Okay? Primary prevention is before anything has happened. Secondary prevention is when it's first initially going on. Tertiary prevention is helping the person stay in a stable environment and to stay emotionally stable in psychiatric terms. Okay? If you have any questions about that, feel free to get in touch with me. You know how to reach me. And I hope you guys have a great day and that this was helpful.